But what it means to say is that the planning process is fixed. However, when the first bullet whizzes past your head, you got to make changes on the fly, and that is very relatable to how entrepreneurship is like.
Steffan Fung was formerly a Special Operations Force officer with the Singapore Armed Forces Commandos for over 15 years, before transitioning to become the International Spartan Race Director and Spartan SGX Master Instructor. He is now the founder of ELXR, a personalized fitness app that brings together the fitness ecosystem, the users, trainers, gyms, and supply chains for optimal training programs and performance. Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm here with Steffan Fung from ELXR. Tell us more about yourself.
Right, so I was an ex-Special Forces officer for 16 years, left the army 5 years ago, joined Spartan Race as a race director, then went into tech entrepreneurship, started ELXR. Yeah.
Awesome, and tell us more about your founding story and how this startup came about.
Right, sure. So my last appointment when I was in the army, I was actually in charge of NS Men. Right, and my passion was getting the NS men fit, and of course then thereafter getting a community fit. So I started off being a personal trainer near the place I was staying, doing volunteer work from the grassroots, and I realized that I could probably only effect change in 20 people a week when they come for my classes.
Because you're limited by your time also.
Exactly, yeah. Then thereafter, when I left the army, I joined Spartan Race. Whenever I set up a race with a few thousand people that get fit through the event I organize. And I do realize that there's still a limit because people who are not into Spartan Race would not be able to effect a change in their healthy lifestyle.
Correct.
Yeah, so I went to tech and then started ELXR to make it more scalable, providing fitness training for the masses.
I see. And how did the idea of this solution come about? Did you have someone with some sort of tech background that you bounce ideas with?
All right, so little known story actually, I know Joel from Shopback, right? Because we used to serve in commandos together. So when I was trying to find a more scalable solution other than being a Spartan Race Director, then I thought that tech could be the way to go. So I just gave him a call like, hey, Joel, is there somebody I can talk to? He introduced me to James, right?
Yeah.
From Quest, and that's how the journey started.
Awesome. And back when you were in the military, everything is quite straight. It's very structured. That's my impression of military. There's always form and structure in place. But entrepreneurship is quite a different school of thoughts where you're always adaptable day to day. Everything's very flexible. Everything's quite unknown. There's not a lot of structure for a solo entrepreneur especially. So how did that jump feel for you, and what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Right. So as correctly mentioned, military is a very organized organization, right? Organized organization,
yes.
Right? So a lot of things are fixed. But what it means to say is that the planning process is fixed. However, when the first bullet whizzes past your head, you got to make changes on the fly, and that is very relatable to how entrepreneurship is like.
Must think on your feet.
Exactly, yeah. And then I think what I had really learned from my time in the army was this thing about resilience, about never give up. And that's what entrepreneurship is about, right? Because whenever the founder gives up, and then that's it, right? But if the founder never gives up, there's always a chance to pivot, and there's always a chance to do better. Yeah.
Now, ELXR started out as a DNA test kit and personalized training company, and has since combined that with a smart fitness platform for users, trainers, and businesses. And now today, ELXR focuses a lot on community building and providing fitness services for the masses, right? So let's go through the decision-making process behind the expansion and why it was a necessary step towards achieving this vision.
Right. So community building and fitness is something that I've always been very passionate about. From the time I was in the army to the time I was doing volunteer work. Because in the army, it's about a bunch of guys from different backgrounds coming together for a common goal, which is for the defense of the country. So when you move that into community building, you're also getting people from different backgrounds, trying to bring them and lead a healthy lifestyle. So there's some alignment there.
Correct.
Right. So with regards to DNA testing and personalized training, that was what we initially started with launching when we started the company. But as a VC-backed company, the traction and early product market fit is very important. And when we realized that we are a little bit too early in the curve, we decided to go back to the very fundamentals, which was what I'm passionate about, community building. And then that's where we are now.
Awesome. And the next thing is, I'm very, very curious because I read this a couple of times in some of the interviews and quotes that you've given, right? That you are quite a big believer in Kaizen. Tell us more about what is it and also how that is reflected in your startup.
Sure. So Kaizen is this Japanese philosophy, which is about continuous improvement. Little known to a lot of people, Kaizen is actually one of the core values when I was in S1E1.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually one of the core values.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's about being that little bit better day after day, and then cumulatively, you will then get better at the end of the day. So how it has been shown in my entire startup journey is that we started off doing things that's non-scalable. And thereafter, we went to personalized training, realized that traction wasn't great, and then we went to platform, and then we went down this military-inspired route. So you can see that the company has evolved. And the reason is because we want to get better every day. And that is exactly the value of Kaizen.
I see. And do you see that in the community that you're building and the users that are engaging with the ELXR platform?
For sure. So there are some users, when we first started off, they are just joining the regular bootcamp classes, for example at Sports Hub, doing that 5 push-up, 10 push-up. And then over time, we see them getting more and more active. They start to sign a gym membership. They start to run their first marathon, start to join their first Spartan race. And then also in their entire fitness journey, you can also see them improving day by day. And that's exactly the principle of Kaizen.
And how does that make you feel as someone who's impacting so much change in their lifestyle and their health?
I think it's definitely very heartwarming because I think the ability to give is a gift. And I'm just happy to be part of their journey as they get on this healthy lifestyle, moving from sedentary to active and then becoming even more active.
And fair, right. And, there's so much pressure of being an entrepreneur on top of, the promise of helping people in their fitness and their lifestyle, right? And you have been one of the startups selected for the Global Sports Innovation Center powered by Microsoft, among other prestigious programs, right? Are there some sort of expectations for you and how do you deal with it?
I think as a startup, we always want to do something that we are passionate about and are good at.
Yeah.
So fitness is something that I've always been very interested in right from the time when I was in JC to university and then as my first career. So being selected for this program actually show that there is some value you're bringing to the table and there's also something special about what we're doing. And is there expectation for us to do better? I think this is a self-imposed expectation I have on myself.
More than any other external pressure.
Exactly,
yes.
Yeah. So I think all those awards that we've won is just something that is being given to us based on our hard work, but it's not a source of motivation, but rather it's like an end result. Yeah.
Okay. And before the pandemic, ELXR organized a lot of offline training and events like Superfit and RedX. And after more than a year of going decentralized or having virtual sports events and classes, right? What are some of the lessons that you've learned over this crazy last 1 year?
So my journey started off from offline going
Correct.
Online, right? And in fact, offline activities I look at offline activities as a way for people to congregate and build their relationship for sustenance of interest. So having such offline activity is great for that bond building, team building aspect. And now with the pandemic, it only means to say that we can now have that offline activity decentralized, so that we abide by the SMM measures and also make it a lot more scalable. Right? Because let's say, for example, if you only had Spartan race in one location, only have RedX in one location, people who don't go there can't experience the activity.
Correct.
So now we have it decentralized and it becomes a lot more fun. Yes. And that's where the tech bit comes in.
And it also becomes more accessible for people who, for myself, I might be very intimidated by Spartan, so much hunks and all the ripped people going there. I might not even dare to sign up. But I guess with little activities going around all across the island, not only is it more convenient to get to, but it's also accessible at people at different stages in their own fitness journey. And there's something for everybody on the table right now.
Yeah, exactly. So for example, the most recent RedX we conducted during SAF Day, 1st July, it was the first decentralized execution, whereby we had a marquee site over at Clarke Quay. There's a gym we're working out from. And there were 3 other gyms around Singapore, all streaming in onto the same platform for people to to have that to build that camaraderie, whereby it's the same activity but executed differently in different locations.
And what was the biggest challenge that you deal with this event for RedX, and how do you deal with it?
I think it's always about selling the concept.
Yeah.
Because being a first mover, there's always this
inertia, right?
This inertia by people, right? So they'll know that, hey, whether is this something that I want to try, do I want to try? So it's always about taking that first step, try, use it as a use case, and then show the rest of the world that, hey, this is what has been done. Let's do it together.
Awesome. And fitness used to be an industry resistant to digitalization. Not just that, even thrive in digitalization. Say the North Star of like Peloton, for example. But because of all these restrictions, because of COVID-19, right, it seems that digital fitness is here to stay. And it's not just a novelty thing, or it's not just for Peloton users. And consumers are more than willing to accept it, virtual trainings and, events like what you mentioned just now. So what do you think this spells for the industry for the next 5 years?
All right. So from a personal standpoint, I still believe very much on offline engagement.
Okay.
Because that is where real relationships are being built.
Agreed.
Right. Online content distribution or online access to content is more for us to scale and also as a means for others to reach and have access to the content without being physically there. So in my sense, is this hybrid model will be here for a while, and it's really about which company or which group of people can understand and then tap onto into that secret formula to be able to really provide more value to the consumers out there while still abiding by the SMM measures currently that's being in place.
And are there some sort of change in consumer behaviors that you've noticed changed in the past few years?
I think first of all, uptake of fitness activities, definitely there's uptake. And the reason is because there's only one legit reason for you to get out of the house during circuit breaker.
Yes, that's true. I started running a lot at McRitchie Reservoir, and I don't used to run at all. It's just, nice to take a breather outside of my confined home. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer in outdoor fitness training being one of the activities that we can do during such COVID situation. That's one. Number two, consumption of digital content, right? Because back in those days where we used to work out at gyms like Fitness First, Pure Fitness, Virgin Active, we'll be thinking, why do I need to work out in front of a monitor screen through Zoom? Yeah. But now in this current situation, during lockdown, I'm like, hey, this is the best I could get to get connected with my friends where we're all dialed into the same video platform and then watch each other work out. Right? So I think that is what the current situation is going to be based on consumer behavior.
So what I hear from you is more acceptance and more adoption, which is all the plus points for you to ride on this wave.
For any all those fitness companies that's riding on to the digitization wave.
Awesome. And, let's talk about some of the other businesses like ClassPass. It's known as an on-demand service. And MindBody, it's known as a white label solution for gyms and personal trainers. So what do you see ELXR positioned as?
I've always looked at ELXR being a direct-to-consumer brand, right, serving the community. So if you look at ClassPass, they acquire gyms as customers and then putting their available slots onto a common membership for consumers to book. So they're like a marketplace.
Yeah.
Right. Then for MindBody, they are more of a gym management software, a little bit like GlowFox, whereby they help to manage the attendance tracking, they help to manage the sales of product and services of customers. So I see ELXR as a direct-to-consumer brand, which is a very verticalized community, right? So all the way from social fitness content to booking of classes to fitness reward system and even tracking of your own health science data. Right. So that is what ELXR is at. So we are very, very focused.
So you're not just enabling, your gyms and personal trainers, but you're also enabling the consumers in their fitness consumption and tracking of their health and fitness levels.
Yeah, exactly. So like for example, one of our clients is Singapore Sports Hub.
Yep.
Yeah. So Sports Hub uses our app to track attendance and also as a reward redemption platform for their clients. Some personal trainers or coaches use us as a lead generation tool to sell themselves, sell their service, be it having free or paid classes. Yeah.
Okay, I see. And do you see any change in the solutions that you're providing right now over the next few years? Or if not, what's next for you?
Right. So I think there's always so much a founder want to do, but what we are building is building products and services that consumers want.
Yes.
So as a direct-to-consumer brand, I think a lot of the things that we are doing now is hinging upon what the consumers really want through feedbacks, through surveys. So they say that, hey, Steffan, I think maybe you should come up with merchandise. Or Steffan, maybe you want to consider selling t-shirts or sandbags or whatever. And then like if there's enough demand, we might go down that route, or we might just stick to a pure digital platform. Yeah, can't be sure for now.
Do you have any tips for other platform businesses out there on how to scale?
I think I'm not a very successful entrepreneur to begin with. So I think some of the things that I'm going to share as a platform, I think you need to be very clear. Whether are you a platform like a Grab, like a Gojek, where you're a marketplace, or are you a direct-to-consumer brand, right? Because mobile applications is just a means or channel of delivering your services.
I see.
Yeah, so it's not like a all-for-one solution. Yeah, so that's how I feel.
Okay, sure. And ELXR is headquartered in Singapore, but it also has very strong roots in Japan as well, with a wholly owned subsidiary in Japan and having been part of the accelerator programs by Plug and Play and 500 startups in Japan. So tell us more about your journey in Japan and what it's like breaking into such a well-known, homogeneous and closed markets as a foreign firm.
Sure. So I think as I shared, right, I came from an engineering background, never entrepreneur to start off with. So when I wanted to go into a schoolhouse to learn how to run a tech business, I actually went up to Google. I was like, best accelerators in the world. Right. So the 4 came up.
Yeah.
So there's YC, Y Combinator, Techstars, Plug and Play, and then 500. Right. So I tried to apply for YC. That was, I think, 3 years ago. I didn't get in. And then I think somehow I got targeted by 500. So the ad popped out on Facebook, and then I was reading through. I'm like, okay, 500 in Kobe. I'm like, okay, Kobe is not too far.
Okay.
It's in Japan. And then I was also timing the time and space, because when I joined 500 back in 2018, Olympics was poised to happen.
Oh, yes, correct.
And there wasn't any COVID.
Correct.
So in my mind was that, okay, I'll join 500, and then if I can get a foot in the door, and probably we can do something during Olympics.
I see. It's perfect timing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But perfect.
Yeah, but okay.
So Black Swan came, and then but we managed to raise some funds from Japan, and being somebody that had benefited from the program, that's why we set up a subsidiary in Japan, and then we continue our business there.
But how do you establish some sort of network and tap into a completely different base of consumers in Japan?
Okay, so I think we are still really in the infancy stage. So when I started off 500 program in Kobe, I had a bunch of batchmates, all Japanese, who are very close with me. And when they understood my story from a soldier to a community leader and now a tech entrepreneur, they were fascinated, and they're all very willing to help. And so, which is why they managed to introduce me to some investors, and then I pitched, and then like he was like, okay, you're in.
Awesome.
And that's how it started.
And this really leads to my next question, which is your fundraising journey. And I'm really fascinated about how you found several advisors and mentors, especially in your angel investors base, including Mr. Toru Shimada, ex-CEO of Rakuten Asia. How critical was it to find the right support for ELXR's success? And how did you even engage these high-profile investors come mentors in your fundraising journey?
I think as per all tech founders, we know that when you want to approach a VC, having a warm introduction is most important.
Exactly. Yeah. It is. Same here at Quest.
Yeah. So likewise, like when I was introduced to James, it was through Joel. Right. So when I was introduced to Shimada-san, it was through one of our batchmates who had already raised some money from him. So when I met him in his office in Tokyo, it was a couple of meetings later when he eventually said that, hey, I think what you're doing is interesting because you're empowering the community to get fitter. And there you go.
Oh, wow. And you make it sound too simple, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's always simple in retrospect, right? But I think for all founders that's like saying to me now, you'll be like, yes, Steffan.
It's a painful journey.
It is. I think as somebody who's running the NUS Angel
Yes, the
angel on network, right?
correct.
Yeah, I think you will have listened to so many pitches as well.
Correct.
So I think we all know how the journey is like.
It's not easy when you have completed the fundraising journey and your style has somewhat take off. Of course, it seems, very step-by-step process thing and things fall into place. But, being in the right place, right time with the right people and having to align all the stars is the tricky part for a startup.
Yeah, for sure. So I always believe that you always work very hard, because if you only work hard when the opportunity is here, you never know when it's going to come.
Yes, you need to be prepared to be lucky, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you work hard every day, and then when the opportunity comes, you're like, okay, I'm ready, let's go for it.
Awesome. I was about to ask you about tips for young entrepreneurs, but I think that sums it up already. Do you have anything else to share with tech entrepreneurs out there right now?
Right. So I think as a tech entrepreneur, the way we run a tech business is very different from a brick and mortar business. That's one. So you need to tap on some resources. For example, Quest has got great mentors, and likewise for some of the accelerator programs out there. Get involved, read more. I think that's key. One of the first books that I read was 0 to 1.
Of course, yes. Peter Thiel, yes.
Peter Thiel, that's one. And secondly, I would say is always remember why do you started this company, and really to be very passionate about it, because let's face it, right? Early stage startups, the founders won't pay themselves as much as what they used to be paid.
Exactly.
In their first job, right? So you've got to really bite the bullet and go for it and never give up. Because the moment when you say that, okay, you hang out boots and that's it, then that's when the journey ends and you can't effect change anymore. But as long as you're alive, there's still some things you can do.
Yeah, there must be some sort of inherent motivation and also a purpose-driven each step of the journey, no matter how painful that is.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Now, before we end the show, where can people find out more about you and connect with you?
You can find me on IG, Instagram, right? So my handle is _special sauces. Right.
Awesome. Okay. And what's your website for ELXR?
It's www.the-elxr.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending time with us today and talking to us about entrepreneurship, fitness, and tech, and also your founding story. Thank you so much, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I'm Vanessa, and thank you for listening. This podcast is produced by Quest Ventures, top venture capital fund in Asia, in collaboration with Pixel, the innovation hub of Infocom Media Development Authority. Follow us for more exciting episodes to come, and stay in touch with us or find out more about Quest Ventures investment syndicates at questventures.com. Till next time.